My name is Celeo from PAiCore Technology, CEO and founder of PAiCore Technology. And today we are going to talk a little bit about AI, but not so much. Not so much. We're going to talk about open source in the era of AI, because in the era of AI, what is intellectual property anyway? What are we protecting? Okay. So a little bit of history, and I built the slides myself, and this is all too much text, engineering background. Okay. But why open source? Let's start with why. Let's start asking the right question. Why open source? Because it saves money, because it provides profitability, because it lowers the investment, and because, again, there's really very little to protect these days in terms of intellectual property, right? We are in an industry that is lacking profitability for years. We need to reignite that. We're also in an industry in which we're all doing roughly the same thing. We need to innovate. We used to be a cool industry. We used to be the industry that led the innovation, right? Now we became some sort of wannabe of the hyperscalers. Nah, I don't like that. I've been in this industry for way too long. We've all been in this industry for way too long to just let that happen. Right? Now, let me highlight something. Network APIs that we talk about so much, they are more than 20 years old. We cannot take that long to maximize the good things that we've been doing, right? Network APIs started at the beginning of this century. A little bit about the telco paradigm, all right? Proprietary models, okay? Innovation is kind of in a closed box, and it's something that ends up with all of us doing roughly the same thing, right? Let's liberate that. Let's liberate that via open source, and let's save costs while doing it. Not a small thing. If you adjust for inflation, this industry is actually losing money. The return on investment is not there. You'd be safer keeping the money in the bank. Okay, that cannot be a healthy industry that we live into, and we cannot just, be participants of that and let it happen like it's not affecting us. It's eventually going to come back and bite each and every one of us. Let's do something about that. Okay. Now, this is a highly standardized industry. This is no surprise, right? If we don't follow standards, things don't scale. So if it's highly standardized and we live in the era of AI in which we're not really sure who's doing what, okay, again, what are we protecting? Open source makes sense. It allows us to avoid questions like, if I built something but I prompted, is it really mine? If I later edited with AI, is it really mine? If it's AI building it, is it really mine? Okay. And some standards, we have way too many standards in this industry, more than 1,000, just taking the 3GPP alone. Some standards are being taken over by proprietary companies that are not even in this industry. I'll take RCS as an example. Now it's Google's RCS. Why? It's a telco standard. Why did we allow that to happen, right? This should be a telco platform that is free for everyone to use, not Google Jibe, the only one that really allows you to have the peace of mind that your message is going to get delivered. Just as one example. Entitlement server is another one that is a nice little complement. It's called TS43 for the techie guys in the room. That is a nice little example that if we let it go away, it's going to be taken over by the hyperscalers, and that is the necessary complement of the network APIs. Okay, that's the layer that touches on the apps, and then the TS43 brings it down towards the network, okay, the entitlement server. Okay. Now, this is an interesting piece of information, right? This is from Spain. We're based in Spain for the last 2 years, and the patent applications year on year, this is 2025 to 2024, have gone down double digits. The grants have gone down 23%. Okay, so the World Intellectual Property Organization statistics, the people in charge of granting you a patent are actually having second thoughts about, what am I really approving these days? Okay, this is going down. Now in Spain, it's also affecting the not so software industries, the industrial industries. And I cannot tell you what's going to happen because this is going to look into 2026. The applicants from Spain are now looking to Europe to see if they get the grant, right? They're starting to look for alternatives. God, it's starting to look like the writing is on the wall in terms of intellectual property, right? And we've been using open source in this industry since inception, really, right? The Linux project that we have way back here started really before the telco industry, right? All of us are using at least a few of these tools, okay? So open source really is not that innovative. It's not that disruptive, even though I know that's the topic of this, okay? What's disruptive, what needs to be, it's our mindset towards it, okay? Changing that paradigm, okay? And I actually took much less than I thought I would, because this is my last slide, okay? This is not just theory, okay? This is already what we're doing in terms of open source alternatives, okay? Core technology that you would have to invest usually 6 digits or more towards, it can be obtained essentially for free, okay? The monetization model on open source is for the support, not for the product itself. Okay? What's coming? RCS application server in open source, entitlement server as open source, etc. That sounds like a pitch, and I don't want to make it a pitch. Okay, so I left 4 minutes extra. I hope it was engaging and planted a seed of open source in telecom, because again, in the era of AI, what is intellectual property anyway? Thank you.
Of course, I have to ask a question. So I'm personally fascinated with the open source world and what's happening over there. I think we don't take enough advantage as a community, telecom, even though we've been using it for a long time. And the combination of intellectual property and open source, it's almost a juxtaposition, isn't it? Open source and intellectual property and what happens with AI. But I do have a question in there. And that is, what do you think is going to happen to the whole SaaS software applications now that everyone can create their own mini applications?
It depends on us, really. It depends on us. It doesn't depend on the technology itself. Because the technology, like on the SMS world, right? If we all use roughly the same SMS platforms, that we're all roughly offering the same use case and the same business offering, right? If we continue doing the same, then it doesn't matter what technology is going to be built by AI. If we're all building roughly the same thing, then yeah, we're going to end up doing all the same things. So I believe that it's more of a mindset, and it depends more on us than on the technology. Where do we want innovation to be? We need it to be close to the need. It needs to be close to the user. All right. So innovation should be in the hands of each and every one of our companies towards the use case. That's why on one of the earlier slides, I said intellectual property should move from the software to the use case. Okay. What are we doing that's different? What are we allowing our customers to do that's different? That's where the innovation needs to be. I don't know if I answered your question.
You did.
Good.
Anybody else has questions? Otherwise, I'll keep going.
I don't need to be standing here for you and I to talk.
No, it's. I mean, you and I had a conversation, small conversation earlier about intellectual property and what's mine versus what's AI, and when AI touches parts of the work that we do. And you said to me that ideas are just ideas, they're not intellectual property. And I think that's something that's key for everyone to understand, because I think the majority of people are confused of what's mine versus AI.
Yeah, indeed. In the definition of the World Intellectual Property Organization, it was meant for original ideas and protect the work, right? So that's, in summary, intellectual property. Original idea, protecting the work done. So the work implies that the idea became executed, right? And the original part of the idea is now a gray area that I personally choose to stay away from. And I say, you know what, forget it, open source and execute.
What do you think it's going to mean for the telco platforms? You know, we still have today companies that are building platforms, and not even AI native platforms, just generic. There's nothing generic about it, but the way that we've been doing everything. Where do you think our industry will go in terms of platforms and creating? Do we need a new version of CPaaS? Do we need a new version of how to monetize APIs? And this is a big conversation, and I'm turning this into a panel, but
I think we do need a new business model. I think we do need a new business model for monetization. I think we are in this industry more surrounded by blackberries than apples. I think there's more companies that are stuck in their old ways, and eventually that's going to come back and haunt them.
I agree with you. We definitely need a new business model because the hyperscalers, like you said, are taking the biggest pie. All right, I'll stop here, guys.
Thank you, everyone.